This is more Doug DeMuro. And this is Chester, and he's a dog that holds paper towels. Now today we are going to talk about a topic I've been getting a lot of messages about, why I don't film videos and car reviews in Europe. So let's get to it. Now this question came from you, and if you want to email me with your questions, you can email me at moredougdemuro@gmail.com, and I might respond to them in a video. And the reason I'm bringing up this question is because this is a question I've been asked basically since I started my channel. I should come to Europe and review cars. And increasingly recently, I've noticed that some of the people who have been telling me this have become more angry and upset. You went to Dubai and reviewed cars, you went to Australia, why don't you come to Europe? Well, you're biased against Europe, you're just some American who doesn't travel. I'm starting to get people actually upset that I'm not traveling to foreign countries to film car reviews. And so today I wanted to explain my reasoning for not doing that. And I want to start by saying it is not because I have some bias against foreign countries or I hate traveling overseas. I've been overseas many times to South Korea, to Australia, New Zealand. I've been all over Europe, to Dubai to film videos. Turkey, Malta, South Africa. I love traveling and I love traveling abroad. And I'm not one of these Americans who's like, everything I need to know about the world I can find out in America. And I know those people exist and I have met those people. But it isn't me. That is not the reason that I haven't filmed car reviews in foreign countries, but there are some good reasons, and I'm going to explain them now. I'm going to start off with reason number one, which is I just don't really want to. And it's not because I don't want to go to these places, but it's because I don't really want to travel that much. So let me back up. In 2017, I lived in Philadelphia, which is in the northeastern United States. It gets kind of cold there. And so in the winter, I couldn't film car reviews and I had to travel. And also the car culture there is just not all that substantial. And so I was traveling a lot to film videos all over the country. And actually that year, 2017, I was on 75 airplanes and I was gone 150 days. So almost half the year I was out of town and away from home. And I was eating at Chipotle in Dallas one day, and then I was at a Subway in Miami the next day, and then I was at an Arby's in Irvine the next day. It was a lot. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I like to have a break from my wife or from my family or whatever, but that's not me. I really love my wife. We're gonna have children hopefully in the next couple of years. And I really like spending time with her and with my friends and just kind of being at home. So, a year ago, my wife and I, we moved to Southern California. And we moved here for my wife's job, but obviously there are huge benefits for me as well. Between San Diego and Santa Barbara, there's like 40 million people. It's probably the largest and best car culture in the entire world. And I think in that space, basically every car that has ever been made exists. There's at least one or two of everything here in Southern California. And so the big benefit for me is I don't really have to travel as much as I used to when I lived on the East Coast. And obviously the weather is always good here, so I'm not getting snow canceling my videos or taking up an entire season and I have to leave. And so for what I do, there are huge benefits of being here, including the fact that I can be home every night. I filmed a Veyron. Now, I don't have to fly somewhere for that. I can drive, film it, come home. Film the Koenigsegg, drive, film it, still come home for dinner, and that is a really, really huge deal. And so it's not that I don't want to go to Europe, it's just that I don't want to be traveling and be on the road all that much. Now, with that said, I also want to have what I consider to be the best car YouTube channel. And so this reason alone would not stop me from going to Europe. For the right cars, for the right videos, I would travel to Europe, but there are other reasons why I don't. I'm gonna start with number two, which is cost. Now that I'm on the West Coast, Europe is further than it was when I was on the East Coast. And I think flying to Europe from Southern California is like $2,000 if you do it during a warm period where you can be sure there's not going to be snow, rain, etc. More or less 2,000, maybe 1,500, but still it's expensive. And obviously there's hotels and meals when you're there. And so it's a pricey trip. Now you're thinking, well, you went to Australia to film videos. Well, yeah, but I was on my honeymoon in New Zealand. And what I did was I just extended that trip and went to Australia for like $500 extra. I filmed a Ferrari Enzo, and then I went on my honeymoon in New Zealand and it was wonderful. You went to Dubai to film videos. Yeah, but I actually went on that trip to go to a Chevy Corvette ZR1 press launch. It was officially revealed in Dubai. And so that trip had already been paid for, and so I just extended that trip and filmed a bunch of videos at Tomini Classics in Dubai, which was an amazing experience. But if I had had to pay to go there myself, it would have been really, really expensive. I just kind of hooked it onto a trip I was already going on. So the cost is substantial. And obviously I'm running a business here. This is my job, my income. And so that is something that I have to think about, especially given the time constraint that I mentioned earlier, that I'd rather not really be away. So you combine those two things, the time constraint and the cost, and you're like, well, okay. Would have to really be a great car to justify it. And that brings us to reason number 3 why I haven't traveled to Europe to film videos, and that would be the distance. You know, Americans make fun of Europeans because Europeans come to America and they think they can drive from, you know, Northern California to Southern California in an hour and see the whole country in a day, and they don't understand how big it is. And that is true, you know, some Europeans do make that mistake, but it seems to me that Americans make the exact same mistake about Europeans. When I get Americans asking me why I haven't traveled to Europe to film videos, I get the sense that they think all of Europe is like one walkable city. And the truth is that that isn't the case. I have a spreadsheet of about 4,500 car offers that I've gotten from all over the planet. And 10 to 15% of these are Europeans, but they're all over Europe. So I'll get someone reaching out with a Renault Aventime in Portugal, and then an Aston Martin Signet in France, and then an Audi RS6 Avant in London. And going between those places, that's either a flight or a very long drive or a very long train ride. And so it's not like I can just land in Frankfurt and, oh, they're all right here. Boom, this is easy. Now, with that said, if a group of car enthusiasts from Frankfurt emailed me and said, hey, we've all gotten together and we have a Renault Velsatis and an Aventime and a Signet and an RS6 Avant and an XJ220 and a Citroen Cactus, and they're all in one place and you can film them all in 1 week, done, I would go. But otherwise, the distances are actually pretty prohibitive. It's not just like go to Europe. It's really go to Portugal and Spain and France and London. And those places are far. So it's not just traveling there, it's traveling within Europe when you're there to actually get to all of these places. And the reason they're so spread out brings me to my number 4 reason why I haven't gone to Europe yet. And that is, I don't really get all that many car offers from Europe. And this goes double, by the way, for Asia. I have a lot of people emailing me, tweeting me, Doug, why don't you review JDM cars in Japan or Chinese cars? I would love to see the quirks and features of Chinese cars. But the problem is, like 2 people have ever emailed me from China or Japan. And I get the sense that when people tweet me and email me and ask me this stuff, they think that I can just land in Tokyo and walk out of the airport and say, that one, I want to review that one. And it's not that simple. I have to wait for people or dealers or whatever to contact me. And I don't get that many emails from Japanese, Asian dealers, people, very few, like a dozen ever probably. And the same goes for Europe. I have gotten emails for all of the cars that I would want to do in Europe, but you know, one is in France and one is in Portugal, et cetera, et cetera. They're not all centralized because I just don't get that many car offers in Europe. Now, I'm not telling Europeans to email me right now with car offers. I appreciate them when I get them and I add them to my list because there's no telling when I'll be in Europe for some reason or another when I'm working. So they may be useful, but it may take me a while to get there and it may never happen. And this brings me to another reason why I haven't yet traveled to Europe to film, and that is that I have the bulk of my viewers here in North America. US and Canadian viewers make up like 60% of my viewers. I do get views in Europe, but it's a smaller percentage, a smaller number. And the result of that is that the videos that I would film in Europe with the quirky, weird European cars just wouldn't do all that well. These cars would be unfamiliar to Americans. I know cars like the Velsatis and the Cactus and the Renault Kangoo and things like that, but the bulk of my viewers don't. And so it would be hard to justify a trip to Europe to film these quirky underground European cars that only car people know when the bulk of my viewers probably won't even know what they are. Now, with that said, I do live here in San Diego, right next to the Mexican border, just 20, 30, 40 minutes from the Mexican border. And so if you're in Mexico with one of these weird cars, I highly welcome you to reach out if you're willing to drive into San Diego so I can film a video with your car. It's worth it for that. It's just not worth it to fly 8,000 miles across the world and pay thousands of dollars to do it. But if a person is local and they have a weird car, yeah, you know, it doesn't have to get a zillion views for me to do it. I'm personally interested in seeing what a Peugeot 3000 is like, so I welcome videos like that. I just don't necessarily welcome spending all that money on travel and time traveling to film videos that I don't think are gonna resonate with a lot of my viewers. And finally, and this is another important one, when I'm in places, especially like Europe, I prefer to be on vacation there. This may surprise a lot of my viewers, but I prefer travel to cars. It's the only thing that I like more than cars. I love places. I love going to places, seeing places and new things. I've been to 49 states all over the United States, North America. I've been to a lot of countries. I love travel. And being on vacation to me is almost sacred. And occasionally I'll post a picture when I'm somewhere on Instagram, and people in that place in Europe somewhere will reach out and say, I've got a cool car, come and film it. But to me, it's just sacred. I'm with my wife, I'm on vacation, I'm relaxing. This is not a trip where I film videos. And it's important to draw that wall when you have a job like mine, because otherwise you could kind of always be on and working and, oh, let's check Twitter, let's check Instagram. What are people saying? How's the video doing? And you have to be able to disengage. And so on that subject, to me personally, when I'm in Amsterdam and I get a note from someone saying, oh, I have a cool car, I just would rather enjoy Amsterdam, you know? And I would rather spend a day hiking with my wife in Lake Como than film a McLaren F1 in Lake Como. Maybe not a McLaren F1, okay? But a Koenigsegg, something like that. I view vacation time as sacred. And it's just hard for me to interrupt that, to want to go and film videos. And so those are the main reasons why I haven't yet filmed videos in Europe. You don't have to get angry with me. I think I have some pretty good reasons for it. But anyway, with all of that said, keep sending in car offers, dougdemuro@yahoo.com, and I will keep adding them to my car offers spreadsheet, because you never know when I will be in Europe on some business trip and I will want to film cars. But just don't get angry if I don't go to Europe or Asia or wherever, because now you understand some of the reasons why I don't. And so that is another Q&A video here on More Doug DeMuro. Feel free to send in more questions to moredougdemuro@gmail.com, and maybe I will answer them here on the More Doug DeMuro channel.